All right, so today we're diving into how you build a new kind of god. And I'm not talking about one from ancient myths or some dusty old scripture. Nope. This one was forged from two very different things: a heavy duty German philosopher's theory of reality and the absolutely wild imagination of comic books. This is the story of Glaucus and his apotheosis. And you gotta understand, that's not just some flowery language. The source material presents this as a literal, factual description. It just immediately sets the stage for what we're dealing with here, a being that has completely left humanity behind to become a literal force of nature. So that's the big question, right? How in the world do you get from a regular mortal guy to that? Well, it's not magic, and it's definitely not some gift from the heavens. It's a process. It's a very calculated act of will slamming into a one-of-a-kind biological opportunity. And here they are, the blueprints for our God. On one hand, you have the philosopher Fichte's incredibly dense theory about the absolute power of the self. And on the other, you've got this sci-fi concept, kind of like what you'd see in comics, like Miracle Man, about rewriting a body from the atoms up. Yeah, it's a weird combo, but it's the engine that makes this whole transformation run. This slide really nails the two halves of Glaucus. The easiest way to think about it is like this. Fichte's philosophy, that's the software. It's the operating system that genuinely believes it can rewrite reality just by willing it. And the Miracle Man-style biology, that's the hardware. It's a physical body that's actually powerful enough to run that insane software. You need both. One without the other just doesn't work. So let's start with the software, right? The philosophical engine that's driving this whole God machine. This is the part where a man learns to stop seeing the world as something that happens to him and starts seeing it as something that exists because of him. Okay, this is the core idea from the philosopher Johann Fichte. And to put it simply, he basically argued that the universe doesn't define you. Your consciousness, your I, defines the universe. Through just sheer intellectual force, the self posits itself into existence. And in doing that, it creates everything else as a kind of byproduct. It is the ultimate I think, therefore I am, and so are you. And this is how Glaucus turned that super abstract idea into a practical step-by-step plan. He didn't just read the book, he made it his life's mission. First, he just rejected his own limits. He looked at his mortality and said, nope, not for me. Then he fully grasped that his potential wasn't just human, it was divine. And finally, the big move. By eating some glowing Atlantean flora, he performed the ultimate act. He asserted his new godlike self as the one and only true reality. Of course, having a powerful will is great and all, but you need a powerful body to back it up. I mean, the mind might believe it's a god, but the body has to be able to cash that check. And that brings us to the hardware of our brand new deity. So this wasn't a blessing or a curse or anything mystical. It was an upgrade, a total system overhaul. The source calls it a structural rewrite, pulling from that comic book idea where a hero transforms right down to the molecular level. We're talking forgotten biotechnology that turns a man into something fundamentally different. And just look at the results of this rewrite. His cells, they're not organic anymore, not in the way we'd think. They're a crystalline lattice. His body becomes this biological supercomputer that literally uses the entire planet's water system as its processor. So when he commands the tides, he's not asking them nicely. He's just flexing a muscle. His kimota, that magic word moment of transformation, is the quiet realization that the ocean isn't where he lives. The ocean is a weapon he now wields. Okay, so we've got the God-tier philosophy, we've got the God-tier biology. So what happens when you smash them together? This is where the true, terrifying power of Glaucus really comes out to play. See, he doesn't just control water, he has total mastery over H2O in all its forms. Liquid, ice, vapor, it's all the same to him. And his ice magic isn't just about making things chilly. The source calls it stasis, the absolute freezing of the non-self to protect his own divine self. This guy can literally freeze the moisture in your lungs from a mile away. But hey, mastering all the water on the planet apparently wasn't enough. To really cement his rule, he makes a pact, a kind of geopolitical treaty with the old gods on Olympus. He fuses his control over water with the raw kinetic power of Zeus's lightning. So now his attacks have both the crushing pressure of the deepest part of the ocean and the searing heat of a thunderbolt. So we know what he can do. But the much scarier question is, how does a being like this even think? What happens to your sense of right and wrong when you become the single most important thing in your own universe. This quote just cuts right to the bone, doesn't it? That Fichtean philosophy comes roaring back, only now it's his moral compass. If you are the only true I, then everybody else, they're all part of the not I. They aren't individuals with their own lives and dreams. They're just objects, resources, things to be arranged and shaped however he wants. His whole perspective is just alien. What we call reality, he just sees as a bunch of annoying limits he has to overcome. Our most advanced tech, it's a toy that he can short-circuit just by messing with the moisture in the air. And our nations, our borders, our whole civilization, to him, they're just sandcastles on the beach waiting for his tide to come in. Now think about this for a second, because this is where it gets really personal. We worry about ecology, right? Well, he is the ecology. For Glaucus, an oil spill isn't an environmental disaster. It is a direct physical assault. It's a violation of his body. And his response would be, well, justifiably and absolutely terrifyingly cataclysmic. So when you put this all together, what have you really got? The story of Glaucus, it isn't some cool power fantasy. It's laid out like a parable. It's a warning about what happens when ambition, philosophy, and incredible power all smash together without a single shred of humanity left to guide them. He is the perfect self-made god for the Anthropocene, our current age, defined by humanity's impact. But unlike the gods we used to pray to, he was not made to serve or guide us. He owes us absolutely nothing. His only goal is to force his reality, his will, onto everything and everyone else. And that leaves us with this final, chilling thought. He did it. He actually completed his philosophical project. In his mind, and now, maybe, in reality, his existence is the only one that truly matters. And the rest of us? Well, we just have to learn to adapt or drown in his world.